It is still considered somewhat early days, but within the Canadian cannabis industry, there is already a push on to loosen or clarify rules around social media and advertising. The industry, we know, is worth billions, but federal rules limit how Canadian producers can market their products, potentially putting them at a disadvantage. Anne Gaviola is the economics and money editor at Vice. She's been taking a deeper look at the issue, and she's our guest this morning. Good to have you here.
Great to be here, thanks.
All right, we look south of the border. We see a lot of examples. Most recently, American rapper Jay-Z signing on with a California cannabis company. He's going to be their chief brand strategist. What are the rules about celebrities endorsing cannabis here in Canada, and how do we compare to the U.S.?
So it's night and day when you compare what licensed producers are allowed to do here in Canada versus what those companies are allowed to do in the U.S. The example of Jay-Z. So he is a billionaire. He's a music mogul. He's really good at building brands, and he can say almost whatever he wants. As long as it's not false, he's allowed to talk about why his product is better than another. He's allowed to talk about pricing. He's allowed to talk about the benefits. He can endorse it fully. Whereas here for Canadian producers, we're talking about very strict rules. They can't have their celebrities endorse their products or talk about specifics like pricing. So we do have Canadian companies that have signed on celebrities like Seth Rogen, Snoop Dogg, Martha Stewart. The best they can kind of hope for is this halo effect. So hoping that people infer that because these celebrities are associated with their products, that this is a good thing.
Beyond celebrity endorsements, what other federal rules are in place around advertising that could put Canadian companies at a disadvantage?
And so to remember, the Canadian market is competing against or will be competing against these U.S. companies. Once it becomes legal federally, they're allowed to go global. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm told it's coming sometime soon. They're also competing against the black market, which is thriving currently. They're allowed to make all kinds of claims. They already are. And just to give you a sense of what kinds of rules bind our licensed producers, I'm going to quote from the Cannabis Act. So these are federal rules. They prohibit companies from promoting themselves in a manner that associates it or the brand with a positive or negative emotion. So that's basically any emotion.
Marketing is based on emotion.
It's pretty sweeping, right? It's quite broad. And they can't promote an image or a way of life, such as one that includes glamour, recreation, excitement, vitality, risk, or daring.
So what does that leave them with?
Not a ton. And in addition to these strict rules, they are inconsistently enforced. So these companies have teams of lawyers and marketing experts saying, what are we allowed to say? What are we not allowed to say? I'm going to give you some specific real-life examples. So you have two cannabis companies. They both have images of people gathered around a campfire in their website and their social. And one company gets nothing from Health Canada, and another company gets a letter saying, you're not compliant. Another little example in terms of what could be constituted as, glamorous, promoting a certain kind of adventurous, daring lifestyle. So the province of New Brunswick put out this cannabis educational campaign, and they were found to be non-compliant because they had this one photo of people taking a selfie, and I guess that promotes the sort
glamour?
It was too much glamour for cannabis.
Yeah, and all of these rules have yet to be tested, right? Because they are new rules. So we're still baby steps. What is the danger of being too cautious in the beginning? Some people would say, hey, that's a good thing.
Right, and there's this whole once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. But according to the industry, timing is super important. So what we have is coming up Cannabis 2.0. And the potential to make money here from edibles, topicals, drinkables. So we're talking about cookies and gummy bears and cannabis products, in terms of cosmetics. It's huge. It's much bigger than the current market that we have that is legal. So they're saying, let's take another look at those rules and see if they still make sense, or at the very least, can we have some clear real-life examples of what's allowed and what's not allowed, because we still don't fully get it.
And a lot of this comes down to stigma, right? So people in Canada may still have this impression or this idea that pot is a drug, it's an illegal substance, even though it's not anymore, and they don't want to be associated with it. They don't seem to have the same struggle in the U.S. They see this as a market, as a commodity.
It's very jurisdiction specific in the U.S. So like I said, federally, it's still sort of a gray area. And some places like California, they're on board, they've embraced it. In Canada, some people are saying, let's take a look at places in the U.S. that have gotten it right, because eventually we're going to be going up against them, competing. And we want to make sure that our homegrown companies have a fighting chance. We want to give them the opportunity to build brands, to be able to say, this brand is better than this other brand because of X, Y, and Z. And also to give them a chance to kind of figure things out here in Canada before they go out into the world. And they're saying the time is right. I mean, this is version 1.0 of the rules. Let's see if we can do better, do something smarter, more practical that kind of is in sync with what's happening in the industry.
Anne Gaviola, good to have you here in your morning.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.